Mark my words, this war, the Ukraine invasion, Putin's war, whatever you call it, this war marks the end of Western global domination. Mark my words. I think by the end of the 21st century, the West is not going to be the power of the world. It's the end of white supremacy. It's the end of the West's control of this world. How? Because of social media, because of the information era, because of knowledge, but more importantly, because of so many things that the West are using as tools to attack Russia. It's an example of what they're capable of doing in the rest of the world. The end of an era. This marks the end of Western global domination. I'm going to include the UK, the US, all of that. The way that they are combating Russia with these sanctions is teaching the world that we will no longer need to rely on the West. So we're going to first talk about, I'm going to break this video down. Let's talk about the business. So I'm sure you guys have heard about Apple pulling all its phones, all its products from Russia. We've heard about Airbnb, Disney. There's so many companies that are joining hands with, the US government, especially American companies, joining hands with the American governments and saying, we are against Russia. Everyone from MasterCard, Visa, Amex, Netflix, TikTok have all withdrawn their services from Russia. There's a lot of Russian discrimination that I'm seeing going on, and it's actually quite disturbing to me because this is Putin's war. The media loves to highlight that the Russian people do not agree with this war. This is Putin's war, but yet they are punishing the Russian people. They're punishing them by creating this mass withdrawal of Russian goods, Russian culture, Russian everything. And in addition to that, soon enough, we're going to start seeing people attack Russians. The same way that we saw people attacking Asians or Chinese people or anybody that was like East Asian looking during COVID, we're soon going to start seeing people attack Russians because of this. Is that fair? Is that fair to the Russian people? Well, the media loves to say how this is the Russian people are against this, that, but yet the US government, the European governments are all placing all these sanctions. All these companies are withdrawing from Russia. And yes, it's going to hurt Russia in the short term. It's going to hurt, well, I mean, I'm sure it's going to hurt them in so many other ways, but it's going to hurt them in the short term in terms of, first of all, their economy is going to hurt from this, but I've seen a few people say that it's not going to affect their economy.
I think more of this is symbolic than anything else. It's not going to have a huge impact, but hopefully will send some kind of signal to Putin about the way the West and the rest of the world is going to think about doing business with them in the future, especially if things continue to spiral in this way. Right now, when I said it's not going to have a huge impact, the truth is this is not going to have an economic impact in Russia. Oil and gas is the business of Russia. Commodities are the business of Russia. And so until and unless Europe effectively says we're not buying oil and gas at all from Russia, you're not going to be able to say it's anything, frankly, more than sort of symbolism here.
In addition to that, it's also going to affect imagine no Airbnb, no Disney, no Apple, none of that. But what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? It creates an opportunity for Russians to create their own products. And now what we're going to see is a lot of other countries are going to stop relying on American and Western goods, digital products, films, all of these things, and they will create their own homegrown products. These are the smart countries that are going to do this. China already did it. Right now, if the Americans said we're going to cut off whatever from China, the Chinese will be like, what? So? In fact, the Chinese people did this so long ago, and they developed their own everything, their own social media, their own cell phones, their own everything, which is superior in some cases, or probably even to what Americans offer, right? So they create their own to the extent that Americans have to apply to bring their products into China because the Chinese don't want American products in there. Now, China has created a model that other intelligent countries and countries that have a strong economy and know how to invest their money, they're going to look to China and say, we could do this for ourselves. We can create our own homegrown products. We can prevent Airbnb and all these other businesses from operating in our countries, and we can create our own. You see, if Facebook and Google go against Russia, that would be messed up, because I just don't think that there could be a Facebook replacement. Well, by Facebook, I mean Instagram. But there is. The Chinese have WeChat. So people will just move on to WeChat, or they'll create their own social media. TikTok is already owned by a Chinese company. Now, TikTok is a tricky one because TikTok is owned by a Chinese company, right? However, there's a TikTok for the Chinese market, which will suit the Chinese agenda. And this TikTok that we use is for the Western market, or the global market, actually, which is probably looking to America and looking to appease America, right? So the TikTok version that is for China, it's not going to get involved, right? It's for China. But this TikTok that we use, right? This American version of TikTok, one for the American side, it's kind of trying to say, because most of its market is American-centric or America-centric, so it wants to appease America-centricity, right? And so it's just falling in line with all these companies. And what to me is the message is it goes deeper than you think. The message to me is that if you do not fall in line with Western idealism, well, we're gonna cut you off. And that on its own would tell me that every region in the world should learn this lesson and build their own homegrown products, invest in their own homegrown products that are as superior, as high quality as the American Western options. That should be the vision for investments for countries around the world. And I have to say, the true test of this is what big tech is going to do. What is Google going to do? What is Facebook going to do? What is Amazon going to do? What are they going to do? Are they going to side with America, or are they going to be neutral? Because if big tech gets involved, Google is essential, Amazon is essential, Facebook is essential. That's Facebook, Instagram. These are all essential products for communication. That's for Facebook, connecting people. And if they take the side of the US, well, it's showing an example to other countries that we as a world should not rely on the West for these products. Because if we do, well, they could just wake up and decide they want to sanction you. Not saying that the sanctions are not legitimate. I definitely do believe it was the best move that they could have made with Putin to go against him, because this man is tough. So I think these sanctions, I think they're very, very strategic, very intelligent, trying to get him from the inside. I broke that down in another video. But I do not like the fact that all these companies are volunteering and saying, "Oh, we're gonna cut off our supplies in Russia," as though President Putin watches Disney, or as though President Putin maybe he does use an iPhone, I don't know, but he can still get an iPhone. So I think it's pretty messed up that these companies are doing this. And we haven't talked about the fact that these countries are going to take a major loss. You know, think about how much money Apple is going to lose by not selling iPhones in Russia. Think about how much money Disney's going to lose by not having Apple Plus in Russia. They're going to lose money. Can they afford to lose the money? Yes, in the short term. But once there's a Russian rival, right, or there's a Indian rival that is creating this and tapping into those markets, that's going to make the Western powers obsolete in the business world. And in addition to that, when I think about the way media has changed, we look at Squid Game, we look at all of these international films that are doing so much better. People are tired, and I interviewed a film distributor, like a major film distributor, and he broke down for me how people are tired of Anglo-Saxon storytelling. People want to hear about stories from around the world. So consumers are already tired of hearing the American narrative. And then you do this, Disney, you do this. And then somewhere in India, Bollywood is bigger than Nollywood already. Maybe people want to hear more Bollywood. Maybe people want to hear Korean K-dramas. Maybe there's going to be a rise in K-dramas in Russia. Nollywood. So they're alternatives to American media. So this idea that America believes that it's the center of the world is inaccurate. Maybe in the 20th century, but we are well into the 21st century and things are changing. Powers are shifting hands. And this move, these sanctions, perhaps they might have been intelligent, but the business sanctions, the incentive for these businesses to cut off its business in Russia, that is not a good thing for the American empire, and it's not a good thing for the Western global domination, because now the world has learned a lesson that we must make our own homegrown regional products and services, and in fact cut these American businesses out of the equation. No, so what I see is a lot more dominance in homegrown regional products and services, right? And those regions might be split across countries, across races, and even across political systems of governance. So you see Russia is, more of a communist state, and I can see very much they could create something that other communist states will look to and say, that's cool, we want to be a part of this. Or other countries in that Central Asian region will say, we like this, we want to use this Russian product. And then in addition to that, that applies to Africa, the continent of Africa having its own, digital products, which it already does. It's already doing all of these things anyway. And then also China has already done it. So this actually is not a good thing for American business. Another thing that, these sanctions have meant is that Russian oil and gas.
The ripples of this war are now being felt across the world. Countries are bracing for a record high fuel price, $150 per barrel, if I'm to give a number to this nightmare. Russia is the world's third largest oil exporter, second largest according to some estimates. And in this crossfire between the West and Russia, the global oil market has found itself in a hostage situation. In other words, this war has reached your doorsteps. Do you have a car at home? What does it run on? Oil or gas, I'm guessing. Taking that car out will become more expensive, courtesy the war in Ukraine. You see, nearly 12% of the world's oil comes from Russia. It is among the three top players in the oil market. Crude oil is hovering around $100 a barrel. The day Russia invaded Ukraine, oil touched $105 a barrel. That was the highest jump in 8 years. Soon that record was broken. Now you and I do not buy Brent crude. So why should we bother about it? I will tell you why. When refineries start paying more for oil, they charge more from the distributor. The distributor charges more from the petrol pump. And the next step is you. You end up paying more at the petrol pump. And this is just one part of the oil story. When oil prices jump, transport becomes expensive. Running a car, truck, or flying an aeroplane becomes expensive. The effect is cascading, meaning everything becomes expensive. Your fruit seller will start charging you more because he paid more to the supplier, who in turn shelled out more money to bring the fruit from the warehouse to the fruit seller. Moral of the story, when oil becomes expensive, everything becomes expensive. Russia has issued a new threat to the West now. It will turn off the energy tap. If Russian oil imports are banned, Russia will also stop supplying gas. This is blackmail. Russia is holding the global energy markets hostage, and the West, especially Europe, is fretting. So here's a question. Are Western nations ready to sacrifice their economies? Are they ready to dump Russian oil and gas to save Ukraine? Do they have an alternative? More than one question. And these are very important questions, not just for Europeans, but for all of us. The answers to these questions will determine how much you and I pay for petrol, for fuel. Here's how things stand right now. Oil is on fire. Fueling it is the conflict in Ukraine. Analysts are making doomsday predictions. They say oil will touch $150 per barrel. That's the highest ever recorded price of crude oil, $150 a barrel. What is Brent crude? It is the global benchmark for oil prices. How much is one barrel? Approximately 159 liters. Now, over the weekend, oil crossed $130 per barrel. It was a 14-year high. To put this hike in perspective, let me show you some more numbers. In December, one barrel of crude oil was priced at less than $70. Less than $70 a barrel. We're now in the month of March. The price has almost doubled. 100% jump or thereabouts. And it's not stopping here. By all indications, prices will go up further. That's because the West is considering more sanctions on Russia. Their target this time will be Russian oil. Moscow has called their bluff, though. The Russian deputy prime minister issued a threat. He told the West, if you ban Russian oil, there will be no gas for Europe. You could say Russia is threatening an energy Armageddon. Analysts say oil will sell at $150. Russia's prediction is much worse, though. It says if their oil is banned, one barrel will sell for $300. It's a scary prospect, $300 a barrel. Can Russia do this? Can it really declare an oil war on the world and inflict this kind of damage? Moscow says it can. It is among the top 3 exporters of oil in the world, and the West is among the biggest buyers. They want to punish Moscow for the invasion, but they cannot stop buying Russian oil and gas. Consider these numbers. Even now, Russia sells 5 million barrels of oil every day, 5 million a day. More than half of this is bought by the European Union. How much money does Russia make from this? Around $700 million every day. What about natural gas? 70% of Russian gas exports go to the EU and the UK. Just by selling to Europe, Russia makes $400 million every day. Add the two, and this is what you get. The West pays upwards of $1 billion daily to Russia for oil and gas. So far, the West has kept Russian oil and gas out of its sanctions regime, which means Europe has been funding Putin's war machine. Moscow has now weaponized the very same supplies. Its message is quite clear. Stay out of Ukraine or run out of gas.
I said I would level with the American people from the beginning. And when I first spoke to this, I said defending freedom is going to cost. It's going to cost us as well.
America's dependence on Russia is quite low. Only 8% of Russian oil goes to the United States. So if Europe does not join these sanctions, America's ban will be largely symbolic.
We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas and energy. That means Russian oil will no longer be acceptable at U.S. ports, and the American people will deal another powerful blow to Putin's war machine. We're moving forward with this ban, understanding that many of our European allies and partners may not be in a position to join us. The United States produces far more oil domestically than all the European countries combined. In fact, we're a net exporter of energy. So we can take this step when others cannot. But we're working closely with Europe and our partners to develop a long-term strategy to reduce their dependence on Russian energy as well. Our teams are actively discussing how to make this happen, and today we remain united. We remain united in our purpose to keep pressure mounting on Putin.
He is releasing America's strategic reserves, but that's a temporary solution. In the long run, Joe Biden needs oil-producing nations to help him, to step up. Countries like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, they have the capacity to do so. But do they have the political will?
Unfortunately, Biden was not good to the crown prince of Saudi Arabia.
Under Joe Biden, the United States released an intelligence assessment. It directly blames the Saudi crown prince for Khashoggi's death. Jamal Khashoggi. Khashoggi was murdered inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. The kingdom has countered America's claim. It says Khashoggi was supposed to be extradited, the operation went wrong, and MBS had no knowledge of it. But the United States has not wavered from its stand. In fact, Joe Biden has never spoken to MBS. In February, when asked about the high gas prices, Biden said, and I'm quoting, "There's a lot of Middle Eastern folks who want to talk to me. I'm not sure I'm going to talk to them."
So he was quite disrespectful to him. And now the crown prince is in a position of power because now the U.S. needs Saudi Arabia.
A united response to Putin's aggression has been my overriding focus, to keep all NATO and all of the EU and our allies totally united.
Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is sending a clear message. He's unhappy with the Biden administration. He has given an interview. He was asked about US President Joe Biden, whether he misunderstands MBS. Here's what Mohammed bin Salman told the reporter, and allow me to quote what he said. Simply, "I do not care." Well, now he's been forced to rethink. Reports say Joe Biden is considering a trip to Saudi Arabia. Two goals there. In the short run, get Riyadh to produce more oil, and in the long run, repair the bilateral ties. Neither will be easy. Expensive oil is good for Russia, but it isn't good just for Russia, it's also good for Saudi Arabia. It means more profits. If Riyadh sacrifices this profit, it will need something in return. Perhaps more defense exports, perhaps fewer lectures on freedoms, and more support in the Yemen war.
There are other oil-producing countries. So Nigeria, for example, produces oil, a lot of it. And so I see a lot of good business in the oil and gas sector coming out of Nigeria, which, I mean, when it comes to Nigeria, I don't know that that's going to be beneficial for the people of Nigeria because of the corruption. And I've made so many documentaries about this, breaking down the systems of corruption in Nigeria. Many documentary series. Go check them out at streamovg.com. I do have a YouTube channel also for StreamOVG. I've broken all of that down. But yes, there's going to be a lot of oil money coming into Nigeria. But unfortunately, it's, as we've seen it happen time and time again, it's only going to go into the hands of a select few people in power. And the basic Nigerian people are not going to benefit from it. So I just hope that things will change, perhaps in this new election that's coming next year, 2023, but who knows. But either way, I see a lot of news media talking about how Africa stands to, how this war will affect Africa, and they always start off by saying it's gonna cost people so much money. Like, we're gonna see a lot of high prices on grain and all these things, but these African countries need to learn to stop purchasing from, European or Russia or outside or Ukraine, and figure out how to create these things in Africa, because it is possible. There's a lot of arable land in Africa. So I see a lot of business opportunities in agriculture, especially in Nigeria. I see a lot of business opportunities there. I see a lot of business opportunities in so many areas due to this war. And I just hope that the Nigerian people and the African people in general take this opportunity to build these nations so that they could be contenders in the future. Like, I saw this presidential aspirant who said Africa will benefit from this war. First of all, just a very ignorant, unfortunate statement, because if this war turns, he says Africa will benefit from World War III, and I highly disagree with that, because as we've addressed, if it becomes World War III, if it becomes a nuclear war with NATO and Russia, we're all gonna die. So no one's gonna benefit. But with Ukraine and Russia and all these Western sanctions, what's happening right now, yes, there's gonna be a lot of opportunity, not just for Africans, but for everyone in the world to create homegrown businesses and not rely on the West so much, just because it's a lesson that they could decide to sanction you, right, if you go against their will. And I know that Americans don't want to hear this. I'm an American, but I'm also Nigerian. That's my place of origin. At the end of the day, this is what people have to learn. And this time, especially in Africa, especially in Nigeria, this time will tell. If Nigerians are serious about reshaping that country, they're going to have to take this opportunity seriously and really reshape. But as it stands, Biden should not have disrespected the crown prince, because now he's in a position of power, and the Saudi Arabia has declined additional requests for crude oil in America, which is going to drive the price up. And I think for Nigeria, it might be beneficial to let that price go even higher so Nigerians can reap the most financial benefits from it. But only if that's actually going to be used to improve the Nigerian economy. At the end of the day, as it stands, Nigeria doesn't even have a refinery that's working. Dangote is building a refinery right now, but right now we export crude oil and import refined oil. It's so ridiculous. Most of the country's refined oil is imported. Dangote's refinery is said to open in the third quarter of 2022 and is said to produce 500,000 barrels. Some people say between 650 to 500,000 barrels per day of refined oil. This is far exceeding the country's needs of about 428,000 barrels per day. If Nigeria holds off till its third quarter, things will be looking up. This means that countries that supply refined oil to Nigeria will lose out. For example, countries like the Netherlands, Belgium, the UK, etc. Right now, there's a fuel scarcity in Nigeria, and it's actually a mess. Like, people are giving out fuel, gas, petrol as gifts at parties.
Some people are taking this to...
That's quite ridiculous. So that's the dire situation of that country, of Nigeria, and it's going to be up to Nigerian people to really reshape that country if they're serious about a strong future. So another way that I see this war really changing, putting an end to Western global domination, is the fact that a lot of these Asian countries have been working double time in the past 100 years, 60 to 100 years. They have been developing so rapidly to the extent that I just realized the lie that you're told in America, that America is the greatest country in the world. You believe this. This is what is ingrained into your mentality, that this is the greatest. I love this country. Don't get me twisted. I love America. I love the freedom that I feel here. I love everything. But I remember the first time I went to Asia, I went to Dubai in 2007. And Dubai then was not what it is now. But even then, it was quite impressive, jumping up those slopes. The biggest malls I had ever been in my life. So incredible. But I still believed the American dream, that America is the greatest country in the world. And let me tell you, I'm a well-traveled person. I've lived in 12, 13 different cities in my life. I always travel for summer vacation especially then as a kid, being younger. So I was well-traveled, but not well-traveled in Asia, not in the Asian continent. So that was my first time in Asia. And I wouldn't return to Asia until 11 years later, 2018. And on that trip, I went to Hong Kong. I first went to Bangkok, Hong Kong, and then Japan. And I could not believe my eyes. I could not believe I could not believe how developed, how advanced the place was. I could not believe how many people were in the middle class, because you would go to these massive malls and you would see all of them would be full with so many people all spending money at all the luxury stores, all the luxury things, even the everyday. So I just saw that, look, they have a bustling economy. That was Thailand. Then I went to Hong Kong and I saw the same thing. Then I went to Japan, and if you've been to Japan, it's even more advanced there. And so I was shocked. And then the next year, after that year, 2018, I go to Asia every year, right? So the next year I went to, where did I go? I went back to Hong Kong because I have some good friends in Hong Kong. I went to Korea. I love Korea. I went to Taiwan. And then again, the next year, I went to the Maldives, and then I went to Bangladesh last year. So I keep going to Asia, and I'm like, wow, like Asia is so advanced. This is not the image that we have of Asia. This is not what the West wants to tell you about Asia. And why I'm bringing this up is that there are alternatives in this world to the West. And that is not that's not what the propaganda tells you. The propaganda tells you that the West is the best place in the world, the most advanced place in the world, this, that, and the third. And that is just not true. The rest of the world has been developing. Not everywhere, but the rest of the world is developing rapidly. And there are alternatives to being in the West. And because of this very reason, you're going to see the American dream is not exactly what it was 100 years ago. It's not. And people are looking to other countries, and we're going to see those economies improve. And it's like Asia just knew it. They have been preparing and they have been building for this opportunity. And people are going to see these alternatives as options. So that's something to pay attention to, the decline of Western global domination. So I want to conclude with why. Another factor that's going to put an end to Western global domination, and that is white supremacy and the mistreatment of non-white people on this planet. And people are fed up. Bottom line, I see the images of how the black people in Ukraine, and black and brown people in Ukraine are being treated, not allowing them on buses, keeping them stranded, and then people turn around and say things like, and I talked about this in the previous video, they say things like, oh, well, it's their fault, or, oh, well, they should fight in the army, or this, that. And people always are so quick to dehumanize people once they are black and brown. They're so quick to do that. And the world is fed up. We are fed up. So this is just giving people the energy to work against white supremacy. And what is that going to look like? People are going to invest in their own people. It's deep. And I have to say, I don't want to see, at the end of the day, I don't think that there should be any set of countries that rule the world. I'm a kumbaya kind of person. I want to see everyone in the world act right. I don't want to see war. I want there to be peace, and I want equality. That's what I want in this world. And I hope that this inspires equality in the world. The West does not need to dominate the world. The West can thrive as well as Asian countries thrive. The West has enough capital to thrive within its own countries without dominating, other countries, right? So this decline, I don't think it's a decline of the West in the sense that the West is going to trash. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the West is just not going to have a policing role in the world anymore. This is what I'm seeing that we're getting into this century, 21st century. I think by the end of the 21st century, the West is not going to be the power of the world. And I do not want to see it be China. I do not want to see it be Russia. I don't want anybody to be in control of the world. I want each country to get along kumbaya. That's what I want to see. I want to see an end to racism. And I don't want anyone imposing their systems of governance on people. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, I stand for democracy, because democracy to me is the closest thing to equality. Not communism, not authoritarianism. I do not support that. So I think equality, but yes, capitalism has its disadvantages that are not equal, but capitalism is about survival of the fittest, which is what this world was built on. But at the same time, capitalism also favors white supremacy. And so I do not support that aspect of capitalism. And I don't know what's the best system. I think every culture should decide what's best for them and their people. And at the same time, I'm a child of the West. I've lived in the West most of my life. So I am more Western in my culture than I am anything else. Then I'm Nigerian. I'm way more Western in my culture. So I do not want to, I support Western ideology to an extent, not to the extent that it harms black and brown people or non-white people, not to the extent of white supremacy. I don't support that. But when it comes down to it, what I'm seeing at the end of this century is an end to white supremacy, is an end to white global domination. Western global domination. That's what I see. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, all the above. My name is Kenim, and see you next time.